Well, Paul, we are back together. It's been a long time since we've recorded, and people were starting to ask. And I think that's the true sign of when you know you're appreciated is when people say, "Hey, what's happening? Where have you guys been?"
Yeah, that's so true. When people are like, "Oh, I didn't realize that you were gone."
Yeah.
It's the exact opposite, right? But yeah, it has been a while. Here we are at the end of May.
In your backyard.
I should note that we are back to doing a live recording, which is obviously very nice. It's always preferred doing.
Well, it's live as in we're in person together.
Exactly. Yeah, we're in person versus doing it online. So yeah, having that in person feel to it is always better. And yeah, we're outside in my backyard enjoying the nice spring weather.
Got the birds.
The birds chirping. So if you hear lawnmowers or dogs barking, then that's what it's all about.
The thing is I'm excited about the fact that we're gonna have hot dogs on your barbecue after this is done.
Yeah. I promised you food afterwards, and we do have beers in hand.
And I'm a big hot dog fan.
Yeah,
I love hot dogs. Like I don't think I'm quite hot dog contest like level, but I do love a good hot dog.
Have you ever witnessed one of those hot dog eating contests?
Well, we talked about this maybe a year and a half ago, probably now, where we talked about the hot dog eating contest.
Yeah.
That Kobayashi guy from Japan.
Yeah.
Who's known for his hot dog eating prowess. And I think you said you went to Buffalo or something.
Well, Cincinnati. I was at a Cincinnati Reds game about probably 3 years ago, pre-pandemic. Yeah, watching the hot dog eating contest. And it's not glamorous at all. Like, if you ever watched it, it's kind of disgusting.
Yeah, I have seen one on a cruise ship, which, by the way, we're going to talk about cruise ships a bit later.
Yeah.
And I've seen, like, you can drink water, you can soak the bun in water.
Yeah, it's all about soaking the bun in water. Like the whole.
Why do they allow that? Doesn't it seem like why do they add that to the? This is not the direction we had planned on going.
Yeah, talking about hot dogs. Yeah,
but you witnessed one of these in Cincinnati, and it was a disgusting affair.
Yeah. I would have absolutely no desire whatsoever to want to participate in a hot dog eating contest, and quite frankly, don't want to even really witness one ever.
It's no way to enjoy a hot dog.
No, exactly.
I think it's fine to eat a ton of hot dogs, but not eat a ton of hot dogs as fast as possible.
Yeah.
Just disaster waiting to happen.
Anyway, we are outside. We have beers in hand, so
we do.
It's always a good thing.
Today's episode is unofficially brought to you by Mill Street Brewery. Original organic lager. Beer made better.
Yeah, well, I'm going the sophisticated route. I got some international beer. German Pilsner Warsteiner.
Warsteiner, naturally brewed according to the German purity law. German Pilsner premium beer, Warsteiner.
Yeah.
Das einzig wahre.
Shout out to Germany.
Yes,
yeah,
Teresa.
Teresa would approve.
I think so. Which, by the way, we recorded an episode a couple days ago, Salim and Justin and myself, and you, unfortunately, weren't able to join. You were going to join us, but you had a bit of an incident occur at your house.
Yeah, so last Sunday, I had full intentions of participating in the your most recent episode with Salim and Justin, because I'm kind of looking forward to being able to talk with those guys. But yeah, unfortunately, I was in the dark. We had a pretty severe windstorm that came through the Toronto area last Saturday afternoon. And it was interesting, depending on what part of the city that you lived in, a lot of areas were impacted more so than others. And for my area, our power was out for a full 24 hours, which is kind of unusual because we're in a newer subdivision. So typically you don't have as many power outages because of having underground power lines.
Right.
Versus obviously older areas. But yeah, I was in the dark, no power for 24 hours. And it's times like that when you truly realize how much you depend on electricity.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just as a little hack, by the way, I have 2 battery backup. I don't know, transformers, whatever you want to call them, that are plugged in. I've got two. I've got one in my basement and one in my spare room where we have like a home office. And I have the one in the basement, I have the Wi-Fi connected. The router is connected into this battery backup because one of the big things of when you lose power is you lose your Wi-Fi. So I actually have a backup for that if we lose power, we will still have Wi-Fi, assuming that the Wi-Fi provider isn't somehow knocked out by that power issue.
Mm-hmm. No, and that's a smart thing to have because, yeah, I noticed that last weekend, as the hours go by without having any power, your cell phone strength diminishes because, you don't have the Wi-Fi. I think even...
Why does it diminish?
I don't know. I'm sure there's some technical reason. I don't doubt that somebody can better explain it than I can.
Signal, you mean?
But yeah, the signal diminishes. And I think it has to do with even probably the demand on the cell phone towers because everyone is working off of their data. So no, I guess they're not on their data.
They're on their cellular.
They're on their cellular, yeah. So it places a lot of strain on the system.
Well, this battery backup thing, I'll post a note in the show notes about it. It's actually really, it's come in handy. And especially if you even have just like a little outage of power while you're working, that even if it's just for like a second, sometimes that'll throw off your, if your computer's plugged in, like if you're not on a laptop, you could lose your computer could shut down. So it's nice when we're working from home so much, having that backup prevents the power from turning the computer off and also keeps the Wi-Fi signal. So if you're in the middle of a meeting or something that you don't want to disconnect, it's I'll post it in the show notes. Very handy little gadget.
That does make sense because during the summertime, you do tend to get some brownouts, especially when there's a lot of stress on the power grid because of air conditioners and stuff like that. So yeah, that's actually a really good idea.
All right. So what are we talking about today? We got, I actually did some traveling recently, which of course, airport travel tends to be a wonderful source of material for these episodes. So we jotted down a couple things.
Yeah, I have some airport travel incidents myself that I can talk about. So yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess the one thing I wanted to mention was that, have you ever stood in an airport, like in a queue? This is when you're checking in, and maybe you're like 6 or 7 people deep in the queue, and there's, so let's say 3 countertops open, service counters, and you sort of start looking at the people, and it seems inevitably a person will go up, they get their boarding pass, they seem to be on their way pretty quickly. Another one, same thing, but then there's always that third counter where there's somebody that just seems to just take forever. And I just wonder, well, what is going on? Why are you taking forever? Like, what is different about your situation than the other people who seem to just have it together? Is it an organization thing? Is it some technical issue in their passport? Like I try to read the body language in these scenarios, and it doesn't seem like it just seems like they're just chit-chatting.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And I'm not really, it's hard to kind of put your finger as to the reason why that is the case, whether or not they are just truly disorganized or they just have way too much crap with them. It's amazing when you observe people in the airport, some people just have so much junk with them. And I'm not talking about obviously young families because obviously you're going to have a lot of stuff with you when you're traveling with young kids. I'm talking about people just by themselves and they got crap with them, and it's just completely slows down.
Like what would
the
be
process?
An example of
just
that?
Endless amount of bags and carry-on stuff that just slow everything down. So yeah, it is definitely very, very frustrating indeed.
There's just something about that where you think, okay, I'm going to go up and be a good citizen, a good airport citizen, and I'm going to try to take as little time as possible when I go up. So they have the passport ready, answer the questions, don't add any details, don't make conversation, just get through. But I have to admit though, once you get up to the counter, sometimes because you're there, you sort of start getting a little more chit-chatty.
So we're talking about the security area, right?
No, like check-in when you're getting your boarding pass. Because I know a lot of that's electronic, but sometimes...
Yeah, because I think that a lot of it now, more so in the past where you'd have long lineups of check-ins. And certainly talking from a Toronto Pearson Airport standpoint, a lot of that now is truly automated where, everything is done online. And even for your baggage drop-off, it's done where you just drop it off at a machine and away you go.
Yeah.
But some of the smaller airports where... like smaller regional airports, you still have to go up to a counter and to do your check-in. And yeah, I know what you mean, where you do have people that are really sort of taking a lot of time.
Yeah.
But yeah, to my point, the whole airport security, going through the security lineup, you have people that just drag their ass going through there.
Well, have you ever seen
really slow it down.
What's the George Clooney movie?
I was just going to mention that, Up in the Air.
Yeah, where he's got his system for...
Yeah, awesome scene where it's all about efficiency. And
no lace shoes.
Yeah, slip-on shoes and, bring it, be completely ready, like have your laptop out of your bag.
Yeah. Well, the other thing he says, which could be controversial now or then, always go behind an Asian person because they're very efficient, or I forget really why he says this, just go behind Asian people.
Avoid families.
Well, and that makes sense. But
so,
and then the other thing I saw that was kind of, there was a guy sitting in the lounge, and by lounge I mean like just where the part where you're about to get on the plane, that 10, 15 minutes before boarding. There's a guy sitting across from me, and he's there with his cell phone, and he's like on it, and he's, I think, dictating an email to somebody, but he's doing it like out loud. So it was like, I will be in Vancouver until the end of this week. The end of this week, period. And I'm not sure why you're trying to reach me. I'm not sure why, as you can tell, he's dictating and it's not picking up all the words.
Yeah.
But he goes on about this. I know my bill was supposed to be paid a month ago.
Why doesn't he just type it? Of all the
He's probably like slow at typing.
Yeah, but you're having to repeat yourself over and over again to have to say the same thing. Like, you might as well just type it and be done with it.
So he went on like this for like a good 10 minutes.
That's so arrogant. It really is.
And
People
then
just making a spectacle of themselves.
So the gist of it I got was somebody was chasing him down for some sort of payment, and he's I guess finished, and then his wife was somewhere, and she sits down next to him and says, so did you talk to them?
Yeah.
And he says, yeah, I did. And she says, well, what did you tell them? And he pulls out his phone. He starts reading it. And then she's like, what are you talking? He said, here, just read it yourself.
Yeah.
I was like, God, does this whole airport now have to listen to this guy repeat what he just dictated for the last 10 minutes? Here, just read it yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole thing about airport etiquette. Yeah. I'm sure it's a full episode topic in itself in many ways. But yeah, I've had some recent, I guess, adventures, fun at the airport myself, and I use that term loosely. About 3 weeks ago, I was traveling on business, and I don't know if it's still the case right now, but certainly several weeks back, there was a big issue in the news about how not just Toronto, but a lot of larger airports in general are very, I guess, inadequately prepared for the influx of travel now that a lot of people are traveling, and a lot of business travel has started to pick up a lot.
Yeah, staffing's been an issue.
Yeah, so staffing is, well, they claim that staffing is an issue, but about 3 weeks ago I was flying out, and
where were you going?
Flying out to Halifax. So I got to the airport about full 90 minutes ahead of time, which is what they tell you to do. And
from Pearson in Toronto. Yeah.
Keeping in mind
domestic
that
flight here.
This is domestic flight, Toronto being a very, very busy airport. but yeah, so I got there 90 minutes ahead of time, thinking, okay, I'm looking pretty good here. Drop off the luggage, and then have to assemble in a lineup just to get through security, which was absolutely ridiculous. Like, this lineup was just at a snail's pace. And unfortunately, I had forgotten my Nexus card, so I couldn't go through the Trusted Traveler lineup. Yeah, it would have been perfect if I had just remembered to bring that card. Anyway, just having to go through this lineup and almost, coming very, very, very close to missing my flight. The point being is that when I eventually got to the security area, there are a lot of people just kind of standing around doing nothing.
You mean, like, when you say a lot of people, you mean like the workers?
Well, yeah, the security staff. Considering they're quote-unquote short-staffed, there's a lot of people kind of standing around with their hands in their pockets. And for the most part, they were very sort of uncooperative or just looked as if they kind of gave the aura that they really didn't give a shit. Well, like, it really, like, I don't...
How's that different? I mean, that's kind of how it's always been.
Yeah, I guess it's maybe always been that way. But when you have that long of a lineup where you're having people that are in serious jeopardy of missing their flights, under normal circumstances, that's when you would kind of step up and try to get people through in time. But there was no sense of urgency. Nobody seemed to care. And I think that's the part that kind of pissed me off the most, is that, okay, I can live with issues in the sense that, okay, they're staffing issues, be as it may, which I find surprising. Being Toronto Airport, they should be prepared for stuff like this. But, when you go up there and the attitude of the staff is that they just don't care, they just don't give a shit if people are going to be missing their flights, then
they're not going anywhere, right?
Yeah. But that's a real problem. That's in the airlines should... I'm surprised that they haven't raised more of an issue with this, because it's got to be costing the airlines a lot of money if they're having people missing flights. But anyway, in my case, my flight was, I believe, 9:50 was the departure time, and I literally showed up to the gate at 9:47.
Wow. And they were still there waiting.
Yeah, and fortunately, they had held the plane for about 10 or 15 minutes, knowing that there was people that had checked in that were obviously stuck in that massive lineup.
Right.
But I'm sure
Did you have
there's...
checked bags?
I had one, which I had already checked.
And that's actually, I think, a saving grace.
Yeah, because
if you
at
didn't
least
have a checked bag, I think they'd probably just leave without you.
Yeah, they could have. At least if you have a checked bag, they know that you're in the building.
Oh, and they also, I think the rule is they can't fly the plane with a passenger whose baggage, he's not on that flight.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Because it's seen as a security risk.
I guess so, yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
I'll check in, get my bag into the baggage check, and then, with my bomb in there or whatever, and then I just conveniently, I don't get on the plane.
Yeah, yeah.
So you ever been on a plane where they've been calling out passenger names and they don't chime in? They said, if you don't mention, or if you don't raise your hand or to identify yourself, which is weird to me that they got on the plane and haven't they already identified themselves? Yeah. Where they'll say that if you don't identify yourself, we're going to have to take your baggage off the plane, and it'll slow everything down. We're all going to get out of here late.
Yeah. Well, considering how many bags are on a plane, to have some guy that crawls under the belly of the plane trying to find a suitcase,
a specific suitcase
for someone, for a particular name, that would really slow things down. But yeah, it was a very frustrating experience. And normally, I like travel. Normally, I don't have any issues with airport travel. I always come prepared and always have my my stuff ready to go.
Your slip-on shoes.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you wear slip-on shoes like in the airport?
I don't. I probably should, but the one thing to note about having the Nexus card is that you do not have to take off your shoes. It's one of the perks about the Nexus. You have a Nexus card, do you?
Yeah. Oh, it saved me many, many hours of time, because you can use it domestically too. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it allows you to kind of bypass the security lines. My thinking about Nexus, though, is it's a bit like a Costco membership. I remember at one time having a Costco membership was special. Yeah. Now everyone's getting a Nexus card, so it's like, is it really giving me any advantage? Well, you know what? I thought that as well, but
according to the lineup that I was in 3 weeks ago, the majority of the people were obviously did not have Nexus cards on them. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been stuck in that lineup for an hour and a half with hundreds of other travelers.
Right. That is the worst, though, when you know you had the power and you had the tool to get you through this.
Yeah.
And it's sitting at home on your dresser.
Yeah. Good place for it, right? Well, lesson learned. Always take your Nexus card. Even if you don't think you'll ever use it, just shove it in your wallet or your carry-on bag and you'll be glad that you got it. And it's money well spent. As you said, it's $50 and it's, hopefully I don't have to deal with that crap anymore.
This episode is brought to you by Pace Painting. Pace Painting, serving all your painting needs, whether commercial or residential. Reach Pace Painting at paintwithpace@gmail.com or via their Facebook page, Pace Painting Inc. Or call Peter at 289-356-7744. Paint with Pace. All right, our next topic is loud talkers, and I categorize loud talkers as those individuals that seem to speak at a volume level louder than necessary in public places. And an example of that would be, in particular, parents who seem to want to use the forum that is the streetcar or the bus or the airport lounge, back to airports, to teach their children things that they speak at a volume level that seems to be intended to teach everyone around them the same lesson. And I'm curious if it's so that we all know that person is a good parent and that they want to use this opportunity to showcase that, or do they just not realize how loud they're talking? What do you think?
I think it's a case of both. I know what you mean. I have witnessed
now, Johnny. We don't stick our tongues out to people. It's not polite. Mm-hmm. It's not polite, Johnny. You know, this is not something that older you should not do that. It's like you can hear this like at the back of the bus. Like, why?
Yeah. There isn't really a lot of places where, well, I guess because of COVID, we haven't necessarily. We've gone 2 years without being in a lot of public places, but now that we're sort of getting back to that world, you're seeing more and more, I guess, incidents or events where that kind of thing comes into play now.
But I saw this. This is like, I've been wanting to talk about this for years.
Yeah.
Do you think that this is, sometimes it's intentional?
Yeah, I think so. And I think just some people are just arrogant or just don't care if other people listen to their conversations.
Lack of self-awareness.
Yeah, lack of self-awareness. Like, I guess for me, the best example would be riding on the GO train. The GO train is the commuter train, which runs from the various suburbs of Toronto that takes you downtown. And I was a GO train passenger for many, many, many years.
Doors are closing.
Yeah. For Monday to Friday, 9 to 5.
Stay in the back of the yellow line.
For a good number of years. Yep. I don't miss that at all. I'm so glad I don't have to deal with the whole Joe commuter kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, from my past experiences being on the GO train, you'd always find people that were just so completely clueless as to the volume of their voice. One of those voices that just carries it literally across the entire coach of the train car. So, someone that's way down at the very end, you can still hear them. And I can recall many instances where listening to some loud talker, and it's usually like bullshit, like stuff you don't want to listen to anyway. Remember there was one time some really arrogant lady was going on and on about her Mexican vacation and how it was such a horrible vacation. And it's one of those things that after the 40-minute train ride, you knew absolutely everything about her. You knew everything about her vacation. Like, you knew everything about her work. And it's just like...
everything that had been done to her.
Yeah. Just about how miserable the vacation was. Meanwhile, the problem was her, not the vacation.
Yeah, what's the common denominator here, ma'am? Yeah,
like just listening to this woman drone on for 40 minutes. And the thing is, you don't have a choice either. Like you're trying to read a book or have a nap or I don't know, whatever it is you're doing. And you can't escape this just monotonous noise coming from this person. and it's almost like you have to listen to it.
There's a few categories of this. There's what I'd call the people manager loud voice, the ones that are calling into the office and they're coaching a staff member on something, or they're settling a dispute with someone back at the office.
Yeah.
And they're speaking loud enough that the whole office is hearing, or the whole train is hearing about what this thing is. And it's almost like they're trying to demonstrate their ability to manage a situation.
Yeah.
So you tell Carl that I told him that he had 1 week vacation, and he's not to book his vacation without at least 1 month's notice.
Poor old
That's
Carl.
what we all decided.
Yeah, Carl, you son of a bitch. Yeah, there's the inappropriate conversations in public.
We should come up with a category, because there's
like
the boss one, and then there's the salesperson.
Yeah, salesperson.
Troubleshooter.
And then there's
solving an issue with a client out loud.
Yeah.
Well, we know your business is important to us, and I believe me, I'm going to get to the bottom of this.
Yeah.
And when I take this back to my boss, believe me, we're going to get this sorted out.
Well, I once heard someone doing a job interview on the GO train. I think they were interviewing someone, like, so tell me about your past experience.
So the person you heard was being interviewed, or they were doing the interview?
I think they were doing the interview.
Right. Tell us about a time.
Yeah. Tell us about a challenging moment in your past work history. It's like, okay, you're given a job interview on a GO train and everything. It's just
like, and they're doing that so the whole train knows they hire people.
Yeah, exactly.
They're in charge
it's
of
the whole
people.
like, look at me, I'm hiring people. I must be someone of importance. I must be a manager. Yeah, it's or people that have maybe somewhat inappropriate conversations or could be somewhat awkward, like, for example, talking about like politics or something, or religion.
Yeah.
Just some of those taboo kind of topics that you just don't really or shouldn't be talking about in a public forum where absolutely everybody can hear you.
Do you think you're guilty of it, though? Do you think you've done it?
I don't think so. I'm very self-conscious about the volume of my voice. So, for example, if I'm on a GO train or something and I'm having a conversation with someone, I don't have a loud speaking voice to begin with, but I will bring the volume of my voice down a little bit, because I know that people around me don't necessarily need to hear my conversation, nor do I want them to hear my conversation.
Yeah. I've always been somebody that wants to take that. Like, I will walk out, I will get up from the seat and go to, between the cars or into an area where there's nobody. Because, I don't want people hearing that stuff. And I just don't want to be like any of these people, to be honest.
But you think about phone conversations these days.
They're pretty rare, though, too.
They are rare.
Because everyone's
and
texting now.
The only real conversations I have is, if it's a business call, if you're trying to get in touch with a client or something. But even then, a lot of times I kind of just screen my calls. And I let it go to voicemail.
That's a whole other topic in itself.
But most correspondence is done through email or sometimes through text. Certainly from a business standpoint, it's different when you're talking to friends. If I'm talking to a friend, I'll wait till I'm done. I'll wait till I'm done with the GO train, unless it's just a short 2-minute conversation. But I'm not going to carry on a half-hour conversation with someone on the GO train when everyone else can hear me.
Yeah. Yeah, we should come up with, listeners, if you have any categories. I know Peter, who's a longtime listener, also the owner of Pace Painting, great painting company. He calls them airport mothers, which are kind of back to what we were talking about earlier, is that feeling of this need to parent a child out loud in public. So I invite listeners to give us other. You have to have the circular saw spinning.
The saw,
the ambiance of this neighborhood we're in right now. Birds chirping and saws spinning. But if our listeners have other categories, we had the boss, the salesperson, the troubleshooter, airport mother.
If we're missing someone vital to this, then please let us know.
Yeah.
I think we've got it all covered.
Okay, so we talked a few months ago now about neighborhood Facebook pages.
Yes, the source of many frustrations. Yeah.
Also the source of many a topic or material for a podcast such as this one.
Yeah.
Well, recently we have had every time there's I'll call it a fireworks occasion. So in Canada, you have like July 1st, which is the Canada Day, similar to July 4th in the US. We have the May 2-4 weekend, which is Queen Victoria's birth. Queen Victoria?
Yeah, Victoria Day.
Victoria Day, yeah.
Yeah, which is a holiday here in Canada. I think it's marked in most provinces. But yeah, typically it's a date. It's a weekend where people do let off a lot of fireworks.
Yeah, we got the ice cream truck coming,
Yeah,
which is another topic. Is the music played on ice cream trucks?
Yeah, it's a circular saw. It goes again. Jeez, we're getting all sorts of background sounds on this one.
It provides the ambiance that the audience really appreciates. So, and if you're not from this country, here's a typical backyard in suburban Toronto. So the recent thing, neighborhood Facebook pages seem to be lighting up anytime there is a occasion where fireworks are typically let off. So July 1st, the Victoria Day holiday. And in particular, the sort of anger that's being generated out of this is around people lighting these things off quite often well after the time period of the occasion. So it might be like 1 a.m, or the day after, or 2 days before the event.
And I can certainly see the backlash towards that. Like, for example, this past weekend with being Victoria Day, I think it was on the Monday night, someone was still letting off fireworks at like 12:30 at night. And it's like, all right, wrap it up. People got to work the next day.
Okay, so the two themes that I'm seeing, though, the complaints, other than the fact that late night fireworks and it keeps people awake or bothers them, is that animals in the wild, in the area we have a forested area not that far away. We have wildlife guy, and I think we talked about the different personalities you tend to see. You've got bylaw guy, wildlife person,
the nosy Parker.
You've always got some representative of the various
that guy that likes to
environmental
people,
guy or girl. The parent person who's bringing in the parent perspective, and that the concern was for wildlife that with these fireworks going off, or circular saws, is that this is disturbing the wildlife, and that foxes and groundhogs and other animals, aren't able to get a restful sleep because of. And I'm not trying to discount that, but for 2 nights of the year, like are you going to throw off the ecological system by having some fireworks go off near a forest a couple times a year?
I hate people that have to determine themselves to be the, quote unquote, the fun police, that have to, it's all in good fun. Like, it's part of lighting off fireworks. It's a Canadian thing to do, the American thing to do on July 4th. Like, it's just, I don't know, people that are just have to bitch and complain about everything and just have to squash the fun that the community is trying to have. The other thing is people that go on these Facebook pages and complain that the fireworks are scaring their dogs. Like, I don't care. I really don't.
Don't you?
Care. No, I really don't care.
What if you had a dog that was shuddering under a table?
Then put it in the basement. I don't know. But I'm not going to go out and say to people, oh, you shouldn't be lighting off fireworks because of my dog.
Right.
Like, don't just, it's not my problem that you have a dog that's afraid of fireworks. So it's not going to stop me from lighting off fireworks. I don't know. There's just so many stupid reasons that people go on about this where, there's always that one person that has to squash other people's fun.
So this is a bit of a sensitive topic, but I'm going to bring it up. The other comment that I saw was that there should be some sensitivity around people coming from war-torn countries that these fireworks can sound like gunshots or missiles or bombs or things like that. And that we should be more respectful and mindful of the fact that, especially now with the Ukraine situation, we are getting an influx of Ukrainians in the country, that this is, traumatic for them to hear these things going off here. What's your take on that?
Again, I think it's crap. Like where do you draw the line? Where do you say, okay, well, I guess we just can't do that anymore because of small minority of people that may or may not, be affected or think of, events in their past that are similar to fireworks going off.
And I'm not an expert in post-traumatic stress syndrome by any stretch, but there's a part of me that wants to say to those people, like, hey, by the way, these aren't missiles, bombs, gunshots. And then and they'll just say, oh, thank God.
It's fireworks and good fun. Let's not lose sight of that. And to that point, a similar topic, I think a couple of years ago, someone raised the point many years ago when Canada had a lot of Syrian refugees coming into the country. Mm-hmm. I think there was some talk about, the air show, the Toronto Air Show that is usually held beginning of September.
Yeah.
That having planes flying overhead would remind people of war-torn areas. So my response to that is, okay, so are we supposed to cancel all air shows and never have fireworks ever again? Hell no.
Yeah.
So
again, you can kind of say, listen, this is an air show. It's like the great thing about living in this country is that planes doing loop-de-loops and swooping, doing low flies is actually, there's nothing, it's okay.
Yeah. This
welcome to this country that doesn't have that
this
concern.
This is good for tourism. It's good for.
Are we going to get labeled as some insensitive?
Well, you know what? I'm not going
to. Who have no idea what it's like to go through all of these stressful situations.
Well, I stand by my conviction for being a proponent of air shows and fireworks. It's something that people want. People love to see. It's great for the community. It's good for tourism, especially now more than ever because, this upcoming Canada Day, it's going to be the first Canada Day in 3 years where it's sort of back to normal, where we can have gatherings and community events and festivals and outdoor fireworks displays. So, I really hope that people do go out and truly celebrate Canada Day and all other, summer events and festivals that are coming up soon. Because, we've had 2 years of nothing. So
it's time for communities to get together again.
Yeah. Well, it brings people together. So 100%, we have to embrace stuff like this.
Garage sale day tomorrow in Guildwood.
Okay. Very good. Yeah. You got stuff you're putting out in the garage sale?
A little bit. We've got a few things that we were unable to throw out when we moved back from Japan. The kids have a bunch of stuff they're going to put out for sale, but it's this amazing time in our neighborhood where it's an annual garage sale day, which of course has not happened for 2 years. And like, I'll say 50% of the houses in the neighborhood are having a garage sale. Mm-hmm. So this episode will be aired after it, but I recommend anybody that loves garage sales, come on down and check out this garage sale.
So is there going to be anything in your garage sale that's going to be traumatic to anyone?
You mean like the rack or something? We do have a box of fireworks that we didn't let off last year because people wanted to have more of a muted Canada Day last year for reasons we don't want to get into now. But I don't know. I don't think so. But I'll get back to you on that.
Yeah. All right. Just making sure of that.
Wanted to mention something. It's called buymeacoffee.com. And it's a chance for our loyal listeners to, if they would like to buy us a coffee, they can go to buymeacoffee.com/wetalked and buy us a coffee. So really you can enter a dollar amount that, if it's Starbucks Frappuccino, like $8, probably would cover a coffee. But for those that like to listen to this podcast and want to support us, please go to buymeacoffee.com/wetalk. We'd be grateful for your coffee donation.
Yeah, we would be grateful. It's show us the love, people. Show us the love. It's I'm interested to know, and obviously I'm not going to place any obligation if you don't have to donate if you don't want to, but I'm curious to know how many donations we do get for our coffee, because it'll show how many listeners we have.
Mm-hmm.
If we get no donations, then maybe we're not as popular as we thought we were going to be.
Well, what are we going to use the money for? To buy coffees, I guess.
To buy coffee. Why not?
We did talk about wanting to take the show on the road.
On the road? In
this
what
show.
way?
Well, and other than Windsor, by the way.
What, with it in front of a live audience or something?
Yeah, we're going to set up in a hotel or something and just invite a whole bunch of people and come and listen to a live recording of We Talked About This.
Really? I don't think we're going to get as many people as, celebrity podcasters.
I don't know. You don't know.
Unless we get like someone like Dak Shepard on the episode, but hey, you never know.
Well, on that note, let's talk about, we got some weird news there, I think, right? An interesting story about a cruise ship and a passenger.
Yeah, so there is an article here. This was a New York Post, so this is a real live incident. So the headline is that a passenger jumps off a Carnival cruise ship. Third such incident in 2 months.
Yeah, that's the part that got me.
Yeah, and I'm just to kind of read some of the highlights here. So there is a 43-year-old man whose jump reportedly had shaken vacationers running and screaming on the ship's deck. The man plunged from the ship just after midnight, about 55 miles east of Port Canaveral.
And is it a purposeful plunge?
Okay, so they don't really talk about that. If this is a suicide, then obviously that's a sad thing.
Mm-hmm.
We're not to make fun of that by any means, but it just is unusual, because if you're going to commit suicide, why would you do it off a cruise ship?
No, maybe you're thinking, this is my last hurrah. I'm going to go on this vacation and I can just jump off this ship in the middle of nowhere. But he obviously did it in a public way.
Yeah, it just seems very unusual. They don't explain the rationale behind this, whether or not there was some kind of altercation or if he was drunk or on drugs or something. You said
there was some sort of piano incident?
I don't see anything about a piano, but there was it goes on to say that in February, a woman jumped to her death off a Carnival ship after she was confronted by ship security following an altercation in a hot tub. What the heck is that all about?
Can you just say that again? I want you to say read that again.
It was an incident in February. She was confronted by ship security following an altercation in a hot tub. First of all, an altercation in a hot tub is just bizarre in itself, but then ship security, what happened where you get thrown off, or you fall off, or you deliberately jump off, trying to evade security from coming after you? Right. It's just so weird.
Alcohol tends to factor in sometimes to decisions like that. Rather than be, arrested, I'll just jump off this convenient ledge here.
Yeah, maybe people think that they can jump off and they'll survive.
Yeah.
But apparently not.
Not realizing
I don't think
that it's 10 stories down and and into an ocean of the middle of the sea or whatever.
Yeah, I'd like to maybe dig a little deeper on that to find out what truly went on there. But it just seems so bizarre that people, it's one thing to have an accident where someone falls off to their death, but where people are deliberately jumping off.
But there are
that's the weird thing about it.
There are a few stories though. If you do Google cruise ship, jump off cruise ship, you'll find there's been several of these over the last few months. So it seems to be a phenomenon that's occurring fairly regularly.
I bet you this happens way more than you think it does. You hear about incidents like the untold truth, and I'm sure if you talk to someone within the cruise ship industry, they'd probably tell you all sorts of weird stories. And it's the whole thing with it's an unfortunate event with people committing suicide. My neighbor across the street, he's a retired TTC employee, and he's, trust me, he has a lot of interesting stories to tell about some of the stuff that he's witnessed.
On cruise ships.
Well, no, on TTC subway tracks.
Oh,
people jumping in front of trains.
Definitely
and
don't
yeah,
want to get into that.
yeah, there's some pretty gruesome stories that he can tell. But hey, you don't hear about stuff like that. It doesn't get really reported on the news. Those are stats that don't really get publicized. So
No.
the number of people, suicides or deaths on a cruise ship is probably more than what you would ever think it would be.
No. All right. Well, let's get into what we're watching, what we're reading, listening to. I'll start. So I watched The Tinder Swindler, Netflix series or Netflix documentary, true crime documentary about a guy on Tinder who basically meets women and creates the aura that they are wealthy, or that he is wealthy, and lures the women into a romantic relationship, and then eventually starts asking for them to give him money for certain things. And then he creates this situation where he's wanted. He's a very, very successful man, like multi-millionaire, and that his enemies, he talks about his enemies are after him, and that he'll ask the woman he's dating, like, to send $20,000. Don't worry, he'll pay her back, and all these things. And I watched it in Vancouver when I was traveling, I guess a couple months ago now, and it was quite an interesting story. I don't know if you've seen it. Have you seen it?
I have not seen it, but I have seen it advertised on it's on Netflix, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, on Netflix. And yeah, I remember watching the teaser that they put on the Netflix, and I recall being interested in wanting to see it because, yeah, it certainly sounded like an interesting topic. So this person then, did he meet the women in person, or was this? Oh, yeah. Really? Okay.
Yeah. So they would get connected on Tinder, say Twitter, on Tinder, and he'd meet them, and then, like, the one woman he meets, immediately within a few hours, he's got her on a private plane somewhere.
Okay, so the money that he would collect, he would sort of fund this.
It's like a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, so he would fund this aura of being a wealthy person by having.
So he'd make a big splash, sort of, when he first would meet somebody. So with his first person he dates, he literally gets her on a private plane within a few hours of their date, or the next day, and says, "Do you want to go to Paris with me?" And they're on a private jet. I don't want to spoil too much because the way he does this is quite incredible, and I don't want to spoil the ending, but you will be just so shocked with, like, what this guy has done, what he's got away with, how he does it. But it's got a good ending, mostly good ending in terms of, how it gets resolved. But at the same time, it also leaves you thinking, what the heck is going on in this world?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's one of those things where you hear so much about, like, the phishing schemes with the Nigerian prince that needs like $20,000 and so he can free up his gold bullion, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And obviously these schemes seem to work because, unfortunately, a lot of people do fall for them. But this is sort of along those same lines, but it's sort of taken to the next level where you have that in-person interaction.
Yeah.
So it's almost like an investment to the point where, yeah, you're spending money on entertaining and sort of building this fake appearance, this fake world. And I guess he just hopes that these women will pay over the money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I will watch it because, that certainly sounds very interesting.
The way that they sort of catch the guy, or that they deal with him, is very similar almost to, like, the Al Capone story, where rather than getting him for, being a gangster like Al Capone, one of the women finds a very creative way to get back at him and get something from him. So I'll leave it at that. So what are you watching? What are you reading, listening to?
Well, it's what I'm listening to. the podcast, it's Smartless.
Mhm.
And if I think you had talked about Smartless many episodes ago.
Well, we talked about it with Ken briefly.
Yeah,
'cause
I think
Ken's
yeah,
a fan.
Ken had brought it
We
up,
had him
I
on an
believe. So that
episode.
was a couple months back.
Green Thumb, Mr. Dr.
Yeah,
Green
Dr.
Thumb.
Green Thumb, yes. Who we will have back for another
Yeah,
definitely
he was
another
popular.
episode. So I'm sure he will be listening to this episode. Anyway, the point being is that the Smartless podcast, I've jumped on board on that one, and loving it.
Yeah, it's
It's a
fun.
huge
Jason
fan.
Bateman, Sean Hayes, and Will Arnett.
Will Arnett, yeah. We talked about, well, you guys talked about it a couple episodes back, but it's such a uplifting thing to listen to. There's so much negative news out there these days. To listen to Smartless, where there's a lot of comic relief, and it's just a bunch of buddies just having a good time.
They are buddies, yeah.
Yeah, just like us.
I love it. Yes. Yeah, they are. They
Yeah.
are kind of like us.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
are.
Not as famous, though.
Yeah, famous in our own minds.
Do you have an episode or two that you highlight that you really
Well-
enjoyed there? Because they always have a mystery guest.
Yeah, they always have a mystery guest, and
And one of them will be responsible for bringing that guest on, and the other two don't know about that.
Exactly,
guest.
yeah, and they've had some amazing guests. Like most of them are from the entertainment industry, but they've
Mhm.
also had some interesting people that are non, I guess, entertainment related. They've had some politicians on. I think Kamala Harris was one
Mm.
person they had.
Yeah. Did you listen to that one?
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
I didn't listen to that. I'm not a big fan.
Well, I think the episode that I really enjoyed, they've had Will Ferrell. The Tom
Yeah, that was
Hanks
good.
episode was really good.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed that. So they have some guests that are obviously better than others. But and I suppose it depends a lot on the direction of the conversation they're
Right.
having.
Yeah, and also
Um,
if you're a fan of that person, it can sometimes be more interesting. Like Daniel Ricciardo from the F1 Drive to Survive series. If you had never watched that documentary or didn't follow Formula One, you might not care about that. But that was one of my favorite episodes. Was
Mhm.
the Daniel Ricciardo episode.
Yeah, but it's a great podcast to just you don't have to think too hard about it. It's nothing.
Yeah,
It's not really tackling any major or controversial topics or anything. A lot of it is just kind of more of an interview format, and they just kind of, you usually will kind of quote unquote shoot the breeze as to, maybe movies or projects that particular guest is working on at that
Yeah.
time.
yeah.
But it's just,
Woody
it's-
Harrelson was fun. I enjoyed
Yeah, I
him.
still have to listen to that episode. My wife has listened to the Woody Harrelson episode, and she said it was really good.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
So I will circle back to that.
Speaking of your wife, she's looking out at us from the window.
Yeah.
Hi,
Loyal listener, yes.
well, listen, we've
She
got
puts
your
up with us.
cat looking at us as well.
Yeah.
2 cats you have.
Yes, I have 2
and-
cats, yeah.
And I'm what I want to be is smelling hot dogs because
Yeah.
I'm really excited to have hot dogs.
Well, I think we've come full circle in this episode. We started off talking about hot dogs, and I think we're going to maybe
up with them.
wrap things up with talking about hot dogs.
You
So,
definitely have mustard, right?
Yeah, we will have mustard.
Is it regular,
Don't
like
you worry.
yellow mustard?
Yes, yellow mustard.
Okay, not like with something with like, I don't know, horseradish or onions
Yeah.
mixed into it or something. It's just
Yeah.
straight. I mean, I like a good mustard, but for a hot dog, it's got to be the yellow mustard.
Hey, can listeners buy us a hot dog as well as a coffee?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, they can just buy us a coffee and then we'll use the money and buy a hot dog with it.
Okay. Or beer, for that matter.
Yes. No, we don't. It's a family show,
Yeah.
although we're drinking beer. But, well, good to finally get an episode. I was a little concerned. I was wondering what was going on. We seemed to be deciding to record and not record. So,
Yeah, it was just one of those things where I think we just both got a little busy, and just time kind of slipped away. And next thing you notice, it's like, wow, it's been how many weeks since we've
I'd have
recorded
to
an
look
episode?
it up. But
It's been a while.
it's
So
longer than we think it is.
yeah. So we'll definitely try to get another episode in within the next maybe week to 2 weeks or something like that.
With no circular saws.
Yeah, no circular saws.
And these birds, I don't know how loud these are.
Yeah. Well,
These
maybe
might
next
be loud
time.
on the.
Well, I was thinking maybe next time I can come to your place.
Yeah,
And
do
we
it.
can listen to the circular saws in your backyard.
Or the neighbor who doesn't like people on ice rinks.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's a whole, yeah. I'd like to
All right.
go on that one.
Have
Yeah.
a good, well, we're going to eat hot dogs. That's all that matters.
Yeah. So our Friday afternoon is good. And hopefully to our listeners, yours is as well.
And we'll be back sooner than we were last time.
For sure.